I signed up because I had lateral shift.
Yep.
I was like this,
Yep.
and I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't work,
Yep.
and I had just quit my job to start a new business.
Yep.
So you can imagine all the joy that I was experiencing right there.
Yep.
Um, and so, laying on a massage table, going through 14-year videos is like, all right, just sign up.
Yep.
Like,
Cool,
I don't
man.
want to
Cool.
deal with this when I'm 40. So
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, yeah, man, it's great to have you here. And I appreciate you just allowing me to share this, by the way. So
mhm,
we can kind of kick things off. For anybody who's watching, by the way, welcome to the channel. This is Dr. Charlie PT. We'll just dive right into it. This
yeah.
is Brandon. Brandon's my brother's name, so it's very natural, rolls off the tongue. Where are you calling from, Brandon, like location wise, man?
Mishawaka, Indiana. So right next to Notre Dame, South
Mish-
Bend, northern.
Mishawaka.
Yeah.
Nice, nice, cool, awesome, man. All right, so let's do this. So let's dive in, right? Again, I appreciate you taking time to share your story. You reached out to me in a really rough place as far as physically, but then also like mentally and emotionally, man. Needing to get a new business off the ground. You had lots of other stuff going on too. So if you can just share, man, for anybody listening, a little bit about your story as far as like, can you paint a picture of like where you began and what things were like to kind of start right before kind of joining program and
Yep.
applying the process that we teach people.
Yeah. I'll start actually a year ago. So a year ago in September, I had a deadlifting injury
Mhm.
that had 9 firefighters pick me off of my bedroom floor.
Wow, man.
So you can imagine the joy I experienced as I'm getting picked off the ground and then, taken to the ER
Yep.
and told nothing's wrong with you.
Wow.
All the
Yep.
X-rays come back clean. They give you a bottle of pills and say, good luck.
Yep. Yep.
And I have a coaching background. I ran track and field. My parents were in marathons growing up. So that was not a satisfying answer for me.
Yep.
And so about every 3 months, I would have this back pain where I'm crooked. This
Yep.
way or that way. I'd have lateral shift.
Mhm.
And anytime you Google lateral shift, the first thing they say to do is Mackenzie side glides.
Yep.
So you can imagine the dutiful student I was ramming my hip into the side of a door frame
Yep.
and just aggravating everything worse.
Hmm.
And so this year, almost to the day, um, same kind of pain came back, picking socks up off the floor.
Yep. It's always something really exciting. I know.
Yeah, just really great. And I thought this is ridiculous. I don't want to have just quit my job, start a new business, and can't make content, can't work, can't do anything because I can't sit, sleep, lay
Yep.
without pain.
Yep.
And so as I'm laying face down on the massage table, going through YouTube to find out there's a better way than putting yourself in a pretzel, I
Yep.
came across your content, literally went down 14 videos deep and said, okay, like, where's the lead magnet? Let me go in and have the call because
Yep.
I can't work like this. And there's
Totally,
no
man.
one that's going to save me.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man. So in a really tough spot. And so you rode this roller coaster of back pain, basically. And this is very common, right? A lot of people watch my stuff, right? And they're like, hey, have you ever seen anything like this? It's like, yeah, man, here's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Usually it starts when you're fairly young. Back goes out, right? It's usually pretty bad, and or maybe you get over it, right, pretty quickly. But either way, it goes away with time, if you will, usually,
Mhm.
right? And then it's like, oh, I'm good, I'm out of it. And then bam, something hits again, and then it hits again, right? And then people find themselves in some trouble. So you had absolutely like a structural problem there in the sense of you did something, you injured yourself, right? Whether it be the
Right.
socks or the deadlift, right? You still injure yourself somehow and found yourself in a really nasty spot and all shifted. And so what did you do? I think this is useful because I wanted to talk to you about this
Yeah.
is you take the very traditional approach. Hey, if you're shifted or you're crooked and you type in online, YouTube, Google, wherever, I'm crooked, shoulders one way, hips other way, crooked back, right?
Yeah.
You'll find that we call this technically in medical kind of language a lateral shift. And I was taught too, man, coming out of school, I practiced under a Mackenzie practitioner, right? When I was learning these different methods, if you will. And it was like, hey, man, you've got to correct that. And here's how you've got to do it. And it's going to be very painful when you do it usually. So talk to me about now a little bit about the process, right? So that's
Yeah.
where you were, right? Did you continue to jam yourself into side glides when we started the process? Like, what did it look like for you to kind of resolve that lateral shift, at least in your experience?
Right. I feel like a recovering addict. I'm 3 months side glide free.
Okay.
Um, after I signed up for the program, literally within that day, I prescribed the idea of yucky versus yummy motions. And
Cool,
so
cool.
this is obviously not a yummy motion to hurt more. And so I just needed to cool everything down a bit.
Cool. Yep.
So the first step was just stop making things worse.
Yep.
And that's what I was doing, and really, really miserable. Uh, After that, then I did go back and look at all the experiences of back pain in the last 5 years. I went
Mm.
back and looked at the x-rays. I looked at the doctor's notes. My back was technically healthy.
Yep.
Everything was structurally sound.
Yep.
So what I discovered was that starting a new business, quitting a job, all these emotional and mental stressors were really the big problem. And my back was just the thing that said, enough is enough. You need a break.
Yep, yep. Yeah, so the back was the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Can
Yep.
you say it like that,
Yep.
right? In a weird sort of way. And so, okay, cool. So you go, for anybody listening, right? If you're jamming your hips against the wall right now, because I want to make this like tangible for somebody,
Yeah.
right? You could do that. And look, I've done it. All right. I've helped people with it. I've also hurt people with it. And so do no harm, right? Trying to help people out here. At the end of the day, right? Sometimes you can multiply yucky, and for whatever reason, maybe that's just, I don't know, maybe you like doing things that make yourself worse. Maybe it's a personality thing. I don't know. Maybe it'll come out on the other side, right? But if you multiply yucky over and over again, ow, 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 right? At the end of the day, I just haven't found that for the majority of people that works really well. Okay. And so you right away said, hey, I'm not going to try to fix this thing, because a lot of people get really caught up on that. They're like, dude, I need to fix this thing because that's what everybody's telling me to do. How are you going to fix it? And it's like, well,
Right.
one, I ain't going to fix it. And
Yeah.
number two, right? Yucky versus yummy. Yummy inputs, yucky inputs. How can we find motions that make you feel safe mentally and emotionally, right? But then also physically aren't constantly picking the scab. And so it's not always about like what you do. It's more about how you do it, and finding something that works for you. And so you cut that out right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing the detective work that we have you do, right, inside program, you started to look at trends. And so we like to track things systematically. And you started to say, wow, even though like I had this injury, right?
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people can't wrap their head around it. They're like, I had this injury, dude. I've got to fix something. How is it that, Charlie, I know we talk about motion, and you know, you've probably used some motion, right, to get out of this, but we also talk about the impact of the mind on symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really difficult for people who maybe are watching who are like, dude, I know I hurt myself. They said I had this thing, and or like I was told I have this thing by somebody smarter than I am. I've got to fix it, right?
Right.
What would you say to anybody who is maybe in that place where they're like, I've got to fix this thing?
So this is the analysis paralysis, that the internet is great, but you can catch yourself going too deep down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, I have a coaching background, so I thought I should be able to fix myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not another move. It's not another exercise. Like if you're too ramped up, if your body constantly feels under threat, it doesn't matter what you do. It could be the right exercise. You're still going to be jamming yourself into pain.
Yeah. Yep.
But the second you give yourself and your body good feedback and your brain feels safe and secure, guess what? Symptoms are immediately going to come down.
Yep.
And
Cool.
so having that unlock was what made me feel better in 3 weeks. Where in the past I would be lingering and it would be going on and on and on.
Yep. Awesome. And I think that's really useful too, right? Because it's like, hey, did we start with okay, Charlie, you didn't do side glides, but what did he do? Right. Yeah. So sometimes people see the absence of doing things as not doing anything. Doing nothing is not doing anything. Now, you didn't do nothing. You educated yourself on what you needed to focus on. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like, hey, I'm just going to start throwing all these things at the wall and see what sticks, because we like to start by teaching people how to do what I call like optimize the environment, right? You can't out exercise the bad diet is the analogy I like to use. So you can do all the exercise you want, just like you mentioned. You can do the side glides, and maybe that's the thing for you. But at the end of the day, if mentally, thoughts, fears, emotions, concerns, worry, anxiety around the problem, stressors, whatever, psychologically, which could be fueling the problem, are present, or if physically, you're constantly doing things that you just don't know, or maybe like you were told to do, I should do this. This is what everybody says to do. Maybe it's picking the scab, and physically you're not allowing your body to heal. And so we start by teaching people how to do deep detective work, to identify what's the trend, what's the pattern, what is it about this that makes me feel good, feel bad, what are the inputs that I'm giving the system, and therefore this is why I'm receiving the outputs, right? And then we can identify that, and it becomes such a less is more approach.
Yes.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Okay, and talk to me too, right? So you corrected this lateral shift without correcting the lateral shift.
Yeah.
Right. Amazing. It fixed itself. Right.
Crazy, right?
And so, what were some action items that you took, right, to kind of like, we'll call it calm the nervous system, but sort of desensitize things and go from this place of like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to figure all this stuff out and I'm trying all this stuff and I'm throwing everything at the wall. Like, what
Yep.
were some things that you kind of did and or that you took from the process that we taught to really help to kind of like calm things down and just kind of shift your perspective on how to approach it?
Yeah, I'm lucky in that I have a massage table, right?
Cool.
So I could only get on it one way.
Hmm.
I could only get it rolling onto my left. Anything on the right was a no-go.
Hmm.
And so getting onto the table and just lay there
Yep.
and I'd kind of hear like a click of like, relief,
Yep.
something's back. And
Yep.
it wasn't that I had to jam it in place or an exercise. It was just literally lay there, relief. Okay, get off the table, move around.
Yep.
Something as simple as a walk. Like that was my first metric is can I walk?
Yep.
Because I was used to like hour-long walks to work on ideas and thinking and listen to podcasts and that sort of thing.
Totally.
And that was not possible, when you can't move at all, let
Yep.
alone what I was used to. So every milestone was building this evidence list of like, okay, I'm not decrepit and in pain and can't move. It's no, I'm building confidence of I can go this far. Cool. I can go down the street. Sweet. I can go for 5, 10 minutes, 15
Yep.
minutes and building tolerance and confidence to say, hey, you know, not that this is all in your head,
Yep.
but you are way stronger than you think you are. You're way more resilient than you think you are.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, really good, man. I think that's a big nugget for anybody and just maybe a piece of hope and or inspiration because so many people out there, especially in traditional medical system and approach these problems, it's you're broken, right? You're going
Yeah.
to everybody and you're broken. You're out of place. You're out of alignment. Like something's screwed up. Right. And as much as you felt screwed up, you realize that, hey, like I can solve this as long as I have the right tools, knowledge, and understanding about what to do. You leaned into that, right? Got some coaching and obviously crushed it. But one thing I think that's useful and kind of maybe something that people don't really think about is one of the other first thing we do before we even start with motion is like, hey, you've got to establish a baseline. You can't manage what you don't measure.
Yep.
And you can't make decisions if you don't measure something. So you don't know if you're doing better or worse or same, right? A lot of people, you go to a PT, you go to a chiro, maybe you say to yourself, how am I feeling today? And it's like, well, I mean, it's sunny out. And I'll tell you myself, it was snowing this morning. I felt a little sad. Like I wanted to sit next to the Christmas tree,
Yep.
but now it's sunny and I'm like, it's a great day, right? And so we tend to get emotionally involved with these things versus just being objective. And so we track progress. We give you 6 things to track weekly. And I think what's really cool is when you track those things, not only can you make decisions based upon them, but then you can get motivated and or inspired by them, right? As you look at them objectively, right? So you can see, wow, that's really cool. Like I'm actually moving in the right direction. Cool, keep going, right? And so I think that's useful. Just as humans, we're kind of emotionally like we're just wired to look for progress, but you can't see progress if you don't measure anything to begin with.
Right. Yeah. My background is in healthcare data. So
Okay.
when you have the healing log, immediately I think of trends and outliers. And I
Yeah.
could see, trend is improving
Mhm.
where the pain is going down. These movements are no longer a problem and I can do more and more.
Yep.
Great. Anytime there's one exercise where it's still cranky to turn this way, all right, like there's your thing, there's your why, but look at all these other things you can do, all these other motions that are helping the pain decrease and again build confidence.
Yeah.
And I had the
Totally.
healing log to see that and track over time. Great. This is why I can say to you, when did all the pain go away? It's this day.
Yeah.
It's this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. And here's what I did, or here's
Here's
what
what
I
I
didn't
did.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, very scientific approach to healing is what I like to take. Maybe I'm just too logical, but it's like, again, if it's not measured, I don't know how you're going to be able to make any objective. I mean, you can make decisions about things, but how do you know if you're making the right decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. So if you're watching this, it's like, how are you measuring your healing objectively? How is who you're seeing other than like, well, you look a little straighter today. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I mean, well, how do we know that what we're doing, this motion, this stretch, this adjustment, this whatever you're doing at home, right? How do we know it's moving in the right direction versus a waste of time versus making you worse, right? And so that is really cool. Now, since you tracked, right, I have your healing log. We send everybody who works with us a private healing log within 24 hours of enrolling in Glute Relief Accelerator program or private coaching program. How quickly did you see results? So you were like an 80 out of 100. We use a 0 to 100 point scale. 0 is nothing. 100 is like the worst pain ever. You were like 80, 80, 80. You were like really struggling. How
Yeah.
quickly did you see results, man?
Within the first week, that 80 turned to a 10, specifically in and raising my leg to the left, or
Yeah,
raising my left leg.
cool, dude.
So every single score improved. And then by that second week, those main motions were not a problem. They're all zeros.
Yep, yep. Amazing,
So,
dude.
and by the time we hit like week 3, week 4, all the motions we test, those were all zeros. Some of the little things of, still worrying about picking things off the ground
Sure.
or sitting for long periods of time. That was another thing that was causing me some pain. As we got a month out, it was no longer a problem. I could sit all day and work.
Yep. Cool, man. And so that's awesome, dude. Like you know what you did. Okay, you
Yeah.
know what you have to track. God forbid something happens. You know what you can go back to. You can be scientific, right, and use your experience in the healthcare data stuff, right, to get you out of it again. And you have a process. So, really good stuff, dude. So let's talk about this. You did have a little bit of a background, in all fairness, in some obviously the data side of things, right? But then also like, I mean, probably like tried some different exercises and tried things like that, right? What are some of the things that you tried on there other than jamming your hip into the wall?
Yeah. So, classically, you could say like the traditional education is in track and field and coaching.
Yep.
Um, and some of the more neurology side of things, there's
Yep.
RPR, which is reflexive performance reset, and then square one. So
Yep.
both of those are actually really aligned with your system of, you know, stop doing things that are making you hurt,
Yep.
instead calm your nervous system down. And when you
Mhm.
give good feedback to your body and brain, you feel better.
Yep.
Wow, what a novel concept, right?
I know, man. People are
Um,
like, people say, "What if your method doesn't work for me?" I'm like, "Well, the alternative is doing things that make you feel worse or don't work at all."
yeah. Um, and again, my hunt at the time was I totally thought I had a herniated disc,
Mhm.
or I was thinking so strongly of structure that I kind of didn't even believe that those would have been a solution.
Okay.
So I didn't even like reach for those tools right away until after I'd started the program. And then it's like, oh, I can still use those.
Yep.
And they
Yep.
did, they help things be better. But again, it's the same concept of you're under threat, your body doesn't feel safe and secure. Guess what's
Yep.
going to happen? Pain.
Yep. Good. Good. Yeah. So I love how you boiled it down because a lot of people would argue like that's too simple. Come on, man. It's like, well, would you rather it be more complex? I mean, we can make it more complex, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think that's a really valuable thing. So again, anybody who would watch this is probably going to have some belief system. Maybe because you watched another video, because you have a certain background, because your dad was a surgeon, because your mom's a nurse, because your neighbor. I don't know, right? But there's usually some belief system that people come into. They're like really strongly glued to. And number
Mhm.
one, if we can't change it, then we can't really help them. But number
Yep.
two, they can't really help themselves. And so, what would you say to somebody who's coming into the process potentially, or maybe interested in working with us and just like, well, this is what's going on, and I don't know if this will work? What would you say to that?
I mean, the easiest question is what's the alternative? Do you want to hurt the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Do you want to not be uncertain and not know what to do when you do have pains? Like, there's a very clear future, which is what you've been doing.
Yeah.
The alternative option in signing up is, are you more informed? Do you have options? Do you have tools? Do you have systems to make your life better?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I signed up. Like, I thought of myself, okay, if I'm 40 years old, so 11, 10 years from now, do I want to be on the ground again getting picked up by 9 firefighters because I had a hard day at work?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I can spot the reason why now in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yep.
Let's do that for the rest of my life, and let's help other people so that they can do the same thing, not just me being stuck on the ground in pain and useless.
Yep. Yeah. And let me ask you this, at least my goal, right, is to not really fix people in the sense of I'm not manipulating you,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to teach you how to fix yourself. And so a lot of times people are worried that like, well, dude, I'm not the doctor. Like I almost sometimes think that it's more of a not so sure if they can trust themselves to really be able to learn it, right, and learn what they need to do.
Mhm.
How was that process? Would you say like, man, this was like impossible to learn, like it was really difficult, right? Or is it something that most people, if they're willing to and open-minded enough
Yeah.
to lean into a process and do some self study and start testing things, do you think that they could figure it out?
Yeah, if you have an open mind, you're curious, and you understand that nobody knows your body better than you do. You
Yeah.
know, no doctor can fix you, but you can fix you.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it going to be instant? No, but nothing is.
Yeah.
So if you would take the time to do a little self-study, consume the material, have an open mind, like there's no reason why you have to be stuck in pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see that somebody, right, could come into this process, learn sort of what I know, right, wrapped up, if you will, in a program or a process systematically to teach people, walk people through this self-healing journey,
Mhm.
with the coaching and mentorship and all that? Do you think there's some way somebody could go through this, right, and just be like, dude, there's no value there. Like it just didn't work. Like it failed.
If they're not willing to do the work, if they're not willing to change the belief, if they're gonna nitpick and criticize every little thing instead of being curious,
Mm,
and if they're gonna stay stuck, side gliding. Like, if you're gonna stay stuck to what's not working, yeah, you're not gonna be successful.
yeah.
But if you have an open mind and you're willing to change and re-see your environment and recognize, hey, maybe this one thing might be what's causing all my pain. How I set up my desk, you know, or the way I sit in my chair, the way I sleep, or the way I drive. That's actually what's been causing me all this pain, not I have to jam my hip into the wall.
Yep. Yep. Got it. Got it. Cool. Were you skeptical at all about joining the process or the program? You're pretty open minded, man.
I was in enough pain, it didn't matter.
Okay.
I'm like, seriously, I knew the alternative, right?
Yeah.
So I could go to another PT and say nothing's wrong. I could go to the ER and nothing's wrong.
Yep.
Or I could do the work, take what you had to say and apply it. What's the worst that happens? I learned one thing that helps. Darn, you know. Instead, I was pain free in 3 weeks. I had reduced pain in the first week.
Yep.
So no, I wasn't very skeptical, but also that's why I signed up versus because I know that was a question too. Like, did you see anyone local? It's like, no, because they don't speak the language that you do that I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're already talking the same language where it's not just a structural thing.
Hmm.
There is an emotional part of your body. It's all
Yep.
one body. There is
Yep.
a neurological sense. Like you can't detach your brain from the rest of your body. So when you start speaking in those terms, it's like, cool, this is for me.
Yep. Yeah. When you finally found someone who's like, okay, not only do they decide that they understand kind of the physical side, but they also kind of understand the psychological mind, emotion, thought kind of impact, right, on the pain experience. Yep. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Cool stuff, dude. Anything else you want to leave people with who are watching, or maybe like, hey, I'm just not convinced maybe there's anything here, or maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. Just to kind of help people out, get some clarity, and maybe inspire some other people to make a move and do something different, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you're super skeptical, run the data. What's the difference between some ER visits, insurance paying for PT, and days of missed work and productivity?
Yeah.
That's what I wasn't willing to miss out on the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking about like going for a run or lifting weights, which are things that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we're talking I couldn't sit, stand, walk, sleep, work.
Basics. Yeah.
You know, existing. I couldn't exist
Yep.
before the program. And then afterwards, I always feel confident no matter what, little pain I might get into, it's not gonna knock me out for months or weeks at a time. I'll know exactly what's going wrong and what to do about it.
Yep.
So that's worth the program in itself.
Cool, dude. That's all, dude. I think that's all we got, man. I appreciate you sharing your story, going from
Yeah.
a place, right, of not being able to exist, right, to being able to do pretty much what you need to do and feeling confident about it, and then having the tools, man, long term. So there's two ways to look at pain relief. You can look at short term stuff. I'm in so much pain, just get me out of it. That's why people get shots. That's why
Yeah.
people go to the emergency room, right? I get
Yeah.
it. But then a lot of times it fails them a little bit because they're like, okay, so this is it, like, right? And so if you're looking for a coach, if you're looking for a mentor, if you will, to help handhold you through the process and do so in a natural way, if you're watching this, I don't know if we can help, right? So we can't help everybody in the world, but we absolutely would love to see if we can help. We do review cases personally. I would review your case personally if you're watching this and you want to see if we can help, and if we can't help, we just let you know. Okay, so we're fair here. We want to help people, and we really want to put you in the driver's seat of what you're dealing with. So look, if you're watching this again, thank you so much. Back, butt, sciatica pain, right? It's pretty much what we help people with. Big mystery to lots of folks, but there is a process, and we have lots of data, to prove that it works for folks. So if you're on the fence and you want to learn a little bit more about the process, okay, that we use to help people, then what I would ask is, hey, if you're open to a different way, go ahead, submit details of your specific case, basically fill out what I call like a formal case review, and also set up a time to chat with myself and or a member of my team. We will review the case. Again, if I can't help, I'll probably call you personally and or email you and say, hey, I feel like I can't help. And or maybe shoot you a text there and confirm that we can, and then we can talk about the plan. If you're anything like Brandon and or you've watched any of my other stuff, and you just are like, hey man, I'm looking for a natural option, and it'd be great if I could learn how to do this. Charlie, if I had your brain, that would be cool, dude. Then we can give that to you. Cool. Brandon, dude, thanks so much for sharing, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem, buddy.